Okay. As someone who has witnessed a total eclipse, when I hear people talking about it being a sign of the end of the world, well, all I can think about is one thing. I'm going to post the audio. Hopefully it won't get the podcast taken down from YouTube. And if you know, you know.
Daddy's home. Ka-ching! What hockey heard you the first time? Lady, no! Mom, call the dog!
The man is Heinrich Kramer, and he is writing the most blood-soaked book of the 15th century, the Malleus Maleficarum, the Witch's Hammer, a book that would torment the world for a century after its release, and be responsible for the torture and death of 70,000 innocent people.
Treating of three necessary concomitants of witchcraft, which are the devil, a witch, and the permission of Almighty God.
He goes on to say that female empowerment would bring on the apocalypse. He even made the title of the book Female, to hammer home his point. Malleus Maleficarum is a hammer used only on women.
So, we must find the mark. We must find the mark.
Greetings, fellow Ricker slaves podcasting at 128 kilobits from the Fortress of Squalitude, located not far from the Redneck Mecca. This is the Atheist in the Trailer Park podcast. I'm your host, Tucker. Professor Fuzznuts is around here somewhere. I have not seen Lord Squeakington in a couple of days, so I'm kind of concerned about him. Yes, it's a podcast hosted by a guy and his cats. Get over it. And this is a Hexenhammer episode where Skullbeard and I read a selection from the medieval witch hunting manual, Hexenhammer, and it's not horrible. It's getting better. It really is. Next episode will be, hopefully, if I can find the time. I have a couple of urgent things to do this week. But hopefully next episode will be part 2 of the Civil War stuff. Now, as for the stuff that's been going around here, fun times. So, the dude I'd been writing with has quit. He had been officially suspended, and I don't know for how long, but he's not been back, and it's been over a week, so I'm reasonably certain he's quit. In a way, I don't blame him. In a way, I do kind of blame him, but that's neither here nor there. Fuzznuts has decided that he likes cheese now. Some of you might remember that after I got him snipped, I discovered the hard way that suddenly the cat who only occasionally liked cooked pepperoni discovered that he also liked tuna fish. So there goes my being able to eat sushi in peace. And so the other night, I was having some cheese and crackers, and wouldn't you know it, he got real interested. And wasn't terribly aggressive, but was aggressive enough that it got a bit awkward. And after I was finished, he did, manage to find like crumbs and stuff that had cheese on them and eat them. So, I rode the bike in most of last week, and then one of my coworkers said, "Hey, look, I go by your house. It's going to get cold. You want me to give you a ride to work?" I was like, "Sure. Let's do that." Because I'm soft now. So, I got a ride for 2 days. No clue if they'll offer to come get me tomorrow. Don't really care. I'll manage either way. But, it was nice to, not have to bundle up in all my cold weather gear just to get to work and get home from work. And actually, it was kind of worse than having to bundle up, because on the way to work, it would have been too warm to wear the stuff, so I'd have to have it in my backpack, and that kind of weighs me down differently than it does when I'm wearing stuff. So that was nice. In other big news, we had a meeting at the local Democratic Party this evening, and the guest speaker was one of the candidates for school board, who is a very progressive woman and is of color, and it's kind of hazy as to whether or not I'm in her district, so can't say for sure if I'll vote for her, but I'm certainly going to volunteer for her campaign to help her out. It's the least I can do. Because she's absolutely not the kind of crazy racist fucknuts that we've had running for various local offices here. And I am happy to report that we have Democrats running for every or nearly every office that will be up for election in this area this year, which is a first for us in I don't know how long. I mean, literally decades. So that is a huge, huge positive, and it shows that even in a blood red state like Tennessee, you can push things if you try. I'm not claiming credit for anything other than the fact that I showed up and helped volunteer for campaigns and at events. All right. That's enough of my babbling for now. So let's get to Skullbeard and I reading more from Hex and Hammer.
Uh-huh.
Oh, God damn it. Fuck you. Stupid. There we go.
Uh-huh. It's a Mac. You gotta trick it into doing what you want.
Yeah. Well, no, this was a browser thingy.
Oh, okay.
At work on Friday,
Yeah.
we had an Easter egg hunt.
Okay.
Or maybe it was Thursday, I don't remember which.
Nah, no, the days just kind of blend together anyway.
Yeah. And so, after we get our eggs and they hid them outside where, we could see them, rather than scattering them around inside the building like they've done with other things, they go to take a group picture of everybody holding their plastic eggs that they found.
Yep.
And they have us standing with our back to the sun.
Oh, nice.
And I'm like, that's not the best way to take a picture. You want the sun behind the camera, not in front of the camera. And they're like, no, okay.
Yeah. So typically, in where I work, bus stops are placed near light standards.
Yeah.
But they're placed in front of the light standard, so that whoever's standing waiting for the bus is backlit.
Right.
And people typically dress in black anyway. So there's a reason I call them Northside Ninjas. Because it's almost as if somebody has read the Ninja Secrets of Invisibility book, which breaks it down. You key on movement, shape, and color. And if somebody's standing like a fucking statue, like people do, and they're backlit at night, you can't fucking see them until they throw up their hands as you go past. So that's been a constant fucking challenge for me, and why I'm so conscious of where lighting is coming from. It's fucking brilliant. Just pour the pad on the other side of the light standard, you fucking idiots. But no.
Oh. God damn it. Is this it? Yeah, this is it. I don't know if you listen to the, Well, There's Your Problem podcast.
It's in my queue, but I rarely listen to it. I think it's in my queue.
It's an engineering-related podcast where they talk about engineering disasters.
Yep.
So they did an episode on these bus stops that Los Angeles created.
Uh-huh.
That were supposed to provide shade.
Okay.
I don't know what that episode is called, so I'll just send you the Wikipedia article on them, and you can see the photo.
Oh, what did they use? A Fresnel lens or something?
Almost.
Oh no. What do we got going on here?
That woman is standing in the bus stop.
Oh, yeah, that's Little Shade, all right. Wow. Brilliant.
They're like $10,000 each or more.
Man, I am so in the wrong racket.
I know, man.
I should do industrial design or some shit.
Yeah, because the There's Your Problem podcast did a big thing about them, and yeah.
That's fucking brilliant.
I mean, if they'd have just made that fucker like a sombrero, and let's face it, You know.
The sombrero would have been many times better.
Yeah. And let's face it, it's Los Angeles, California, so it's going to be fucking hot.
Yeah.
I mean, you know.
That little bit of shade is not sufficient. That wouldn't even be sufficient here.
Yeah. And it's Los Angeles, so they kind of need to worry about warm weather all year round.
Wow, yeah, I am so in the wrong racket. I should be selling shit to cities. Like literal shit. Crap, even.
Yeah, I know, man. It is.
That's fucking unreal. Those are even worse than ours.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So, the wind here typically comes from the west. Typically. But occasionally, it'll come from the north, and that's bad, because that means cold. Or it'll come from the east, which means it's going to be cold and lots of snow that's carried across the prairies from, like, Ontario or something, or maybe up from the Gulf of Mexico, across the Great Plains and in. And if it comes from the south, well, then you're pretty much fucked either. Or too, right? So, yeah, we have the bus shelters at the university have two sides, west and north. So they fill up with snow, which is awesome. Yeah. I'm in the wrong racket. Oh, well. So, brilliant. Fucking brilliant.
I know. There are just so many things. It's like if I just didn't have ethics, I could run such a con.
Oh, I know. Bloody hell, I'm sure I can come up with something at least as good as Mormonism.
Yeah. Oh, and so. Speaking of which, that's what the bulk of that episode that I just put out is about. Is that I suspect that one of the really famous podcasters is, they're not in the atheist community so much, but they are an atheist and they are a political podcast. I have a feeling that they have transitioned from being serious about the subject to enhancing their fame.
By embracing religion?
No, by not wanting to address the serious issues.
Ah, yes. Yeah.
Because they, I don't know if you know, Senator Joseph Lieberman died this past week.
Okay. I recognize the name, but I don't know.
Right.
Fuck all about him.
He was Al Gore's running mate in 2000.
Oh, okay.
Amongst other things. He's also why the U.S. does not have socialized medicine.
Oh, okay. So he's an
because
asshole.
when they were putting Obamacare through the Senate, they needed his vote, and he said he was not going to vote for it if it had a public option. The public option would allow you to get Medicare over private health insurance, and Medicare is vastly better than private health insurance.
Yep.
So naturally, what would everybody want? Medicare.
Right. Obviously.
And he was opposed to that. He endorsed what the fuck? God damn it! Stupid COVID brain.
Oh yes, painfully aware.
John McCain in 2008 for president. He thought video games were responsible for violence in our society.
No. Okay, yeah, I hear that one a lot.
Right. And so, anyways, this podcast was like, Well, he was a very bipartisan person, and he had friends on both sides of the aisle.
Okay.
And he was a founding member of the No Labels Party, so that's a bit of a down check against him, but may his memory be a blessing. The No Labels Party is for people who can't vote Democrat, but think that the only problem with the Republican Party is they're too open about being fascist right now.
Ah, okay. Yeah, I knew there was something about them that I didn't like. Okay.
You know, it's not that they disagree with the Republicans, it's they just don't like them being so blatantly.
Yeah, just you're saying the quiet parts out loud, and we don't like that.
A little too much.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
So, and they're, and I'm like, and then they were talking about their tour they're going to be doing, and I kept thinking, yeah, I can get why you'd want a tour, but you're not mentioning that you're going to have all these organizations there so people can network and do things.
Mm-hmm.
To help keep the Republicans out of power, because we sure as shit need them out of power.
Yes, you do.
It's
kind of like,
I'm just like,
It's kind of like how we need to not vote conservative, but I'm surrounded by fucking morons who keep voting conservative. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, and I don't know if I mentioned this on the pod or not, but a buddy of mine, whom I've known for 20 some odd years now, is moving to Canada.
Oh, nice.
He's a gunsmith.
Okay.
I mean, that's his side gig. His primary gig is he does CAD work.
Oh, okay. Well, he's... I hate to say it, but he's not going to have a hell of a lot of gunsmithing work around, because...
Oh, no, that's why he's leaving here. He lives in Nashville.
Yeah.
And that shooting we had at the school last year...
Yeah.
That was it for him. He's like, this country is just way too fucking crazy about guns.
Yep.
His wife is Canadian, so they're moving back home.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's not a bad idea.
I forget exactly where he's moving. I don't think he's a Newfie, or his wife is a Newfie, but it is the eastern part of Canada. So whatever, I can't think of all your provinces, but whatever I think it's the easternmost province. No,
that would be Newfoundland, Nova Scotia, Prince Edward Island.
Not that far east, but
or New Brunswick. New Brunswick. New Brunswick butts up against Maine.
Yeah. I forget where he's posted, and I'd have to open my other browser, which has like 8 kajillion tabs, so I'm not going to do that.
Oh, okay.
To find him, because he's on that Facebook account.
All right. There, I just sent you a link to a couple hours down the road from here. There's a gun store and shooting range.
Yeah.
And, they have to close because they can't sell handguns anymore. And if you can't sell handguns, you can't sell holsters and sights and ammo and all that fun stuff. So, yeah. Yeah, well, this would be the closest place to CFB Wainwright, which does a lot of international training. Or no, Suffield. It'd be Suffield. So they drive tanks around and shoot things and stuff.
Yeah. But dude is his primary job is CAD, and he's been doing it for probably close to 30 years now.
Oh, wow.
And he is really good, because one time I said, hey, man, can I get you to do this thing for me? And he, in less than a week, I got something that looked like it was prepared for a corporation. And I mean, it was way more detailed than I ever expected him to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, dude, if it had all been, if all the lines had been the same color, that would have been fine. But you color coded everything,
Uh-huh.
So that was awesome. And like when I was taking a CAD class, I said, hey, man, our instructor doesn't know anything. He's a good instructor. He's an engineer, but he doesn't know anything about CAD. Can you come up and help? And, he showed up and he gave some tips. And he's like, oh, yeah, and you hit this control. And he goes, where's your printer? And I said, there. And he goes, boop. And it printed out this big stack of documentation that, unless you know, like the secret commands, you don't get it. But it gives you all the keyboard commands and stuff like that.
Oh, wow. All the shortcuts. Nice.
Yeah, and so that's why I got an A in the class, because I was able to give, I gave that shit to the instructor.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, oh, wow. And that was a bad year to take AutoCAD, too, because AutoCAD decided that, I assume you've used AutoCAD.
Not so much, no.
But, okay, but I mean, you've seen CAD drawings, right?
Yeah.
On a computer, right? And it's a black image, or it's a black page with the lines on it different colors.
Yep. Generally.
Uh-huh. Well, the year I took the CAD classes was the year that AutoCAD decided the default setting was going to be a white page.
Oh, lovely. Okay.
And it's like, I can't see what I'm fucking drawing.
Yeah, no, I much prefer dark mode. Give me a black background with colored text.
I mean, if I'm reading like pages in a book or something, that a white background with black text is fine. But if I'm looking at a blueprint, when I was a little kid, blueprints were blue with white ink on them.
Yep.
And then when you went to CAD, it was black with white lines and then colored lines and stuff like that. So getting a cream-colored sheet with lines, and of course,
no.
And I was in my 40s at the time, and my eyes had just started shifting, so the only way I could see close up was to do this, because I didn't have bifocals, and I was looking at the thing, and I was like, I can't use this, and I called the instructor over, because he's about the same age as me, and I says, you are about to feel my pain. He goes, what do you mean? I says, look, and I showed him, and he goes, I feel your pain. I can't read that. So I immediately Googled, how do I change the AutoCAD thing to black? And, some setting. And I was like, here, this is what we do. And he's like, and he told everybody, this is how you're going to do it.
Yeah.
I don't care if you like the white background, you're doing it this way. For me.
You might like it, but I don't.
I can't see it.
Yep.
So how's things been on your end of the planet?
It is what it is. It's melting for now. It's going to snow again. Yay. Which we need, because it's going to be a massive fucking drought here this summer. We have... Oh yeah. Buckle up. It's going to get real fucking dry and real fucking smoky, because we still have... I don't know how many. Last time I looked, it was like 53 zombie fires burning from last year. So that's going to be awesome. We have fuck all for snowpack, which means we're going to have fuck all for runoff, which means we're going to have fuck all for water. The dams are empty. Yeah, we're going to be fucked.
Yeah, I know.
And
if you go by the the planning guides for when to set out your plants and
Yep.
start your seeds for this area.
Yep.
Should do it last week of March.
Okay.
It's going to get down to around freezing later on this week.
Yep.
And it's like, yeah, so I'm not trying to plant anything right now.
No, you can start things in pots in your front window, though.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've got an olive tree in a pot that I have to bring in because it can't handle anything below 40 degrees freedom units.
Yep.
And I have a pot that I started with what are called oca.
Oh, okay. I've never seen them, but I've heard of them.
Yeah. So I've got that started and they've sprouted, but I don't dare put them out because I don't want them to freeze and die.
Yeah, no.
And I had hoped to put those out at the very least this week, but I can't because if it gets down into the 30s,
Yeah, they're done.
they're done. I leave the olive tree outside until it gets like just under 40 degrees because that's enough to get it to understand that, hey, cold weather's here.
Yep.
And then, it's almost old enough that it'll start producing fruit, so I'm hoping I'll get some.
Oh, you're being ridiculous. Seriously. Yeah, I said I was recording tonight, so she's tormenting me.
Okay, well, let's probably ought to get this started.
Okay. Are we somewhere around? And there are those who... Taking
No.
their example from Saint Germain?
It is shown in various ways that they can be bodily transported.
Oh,
And-
okay. So I was just
And-
like a couple of paragraphs too high.
Yeah. And how's your recorder?
It's rocking out. It's got 23 minutes on it so far. What do I got left? We're good for 4 hours and 46 minutes, but I don't think I can go that long.
No, I can't.
I had a rather large helping of turkey and stuff. Because zombies? I don't know. No.
Yeah, turkeys. I can't. I've never heard of anyone having turkey for dead guy on a stick day.
Well, we had 2 in the deep freeze, so whatever. Let's have a turkey. I need to make more bone broth anyway.
Yeah. All right. Well, you start because somebody's debating about what they're going to do.
Oh, somebody's going to climb into your lap. You're a cat hammock. Oh, there
Yeah.
he is. There he is. That's probably why you can't keep plants in the house, eh?
No, he's actually been good.
Oh, okay.
He has not used because the olive tree and the oca are both in pots that are, about yay big in diameter.
Mm-hmm.
And he has not once used them for a litter box.
Oh, okay. Friend of mine was the groundskeeper at the research station, and he had a couple of very large Siamese cats that were dumb as fuck. Weird. Probably inbred or something, but whatever. He used to plant trays of grass for them. And when they were feeling not well, they would get a cube of grass to eat. So. All right. I guess we should do this thing, eh?
Yeah.
It is shown in various ways that they can be bodily transported, and first from the operations of other magicians, for if they could not be transported, it would either be because God does not permit it, or because the devil cannot do this, since it is contrary to nature. It cannot be for the first one, For both greater and less things can be done by the permission of God, and greater things are often done both to children and men, even to just men confirmed in grace. Wait, you're telling me people can fly? If God wills it?
Or if they will it, apparently.
Interesting.
Yeah, because it seems to indicate that, it's contrary to nature, so can't be done, but actually it can be done because, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
For when it is asked whether substitutions of children can be effected by the work of devils, and whether the devil can carry a man from place to place, even against his will, to the first question, the answer is yes. For William of Paris says in the last part of his De Universo, substitutions of children are, with God's permission. Oh, man.
Yeah, here comes the changeling.
Possible so that the devil can effect a change of the child or even a transformation. For such children are always miserable and crying, and although 4 or 5 mothers could hardly support enough milk for them, they never grow fat. Yet are heavy beyond the ordinary, sort of like a cat that does not want to be picked up.
Uh-huh.
But this should neither be affirmed nor denied to women on account of the great fear which it may cause them, but they should be instructed to ask the opinion of learned men. For God permits this on account of the sins of the parents, in that sometimes men curse their pregnant wives, saying, "May you be carrying a devil," or some such thing. In the same way, impatient women often say something of the sort, and many examples have been given by other men, some of them pious men. Or as the old mother's curse, "I hope that when you grow up and you have children that they're just like you."
Uh-huh. I got that one. I have 3 adult kids. For Vincent of Beauvais, I'm going to guess that's Special History 2643, related a story told by St. Peter Damian of a 5-year-old son of a nobleman who was for the time living in a monastery. And one night he was carried out of the monastery into a locked mill where he was found in the morning. And when he was questioned, he said that he had been carried by some men to a great feast and bidden to eat, and afterwards he was put into the mill through the roof.
Yeah, I'm guessing that's not what happened.
The story seems a little thin.
And one of those magicians whom we generally call necromancers, who are often carried through the air by devils for long distances. And sometimes they even persuade others to go with them on a horse, which is not really a horse, but a devil in that form, and as they say, thus warn their companions not to make the sign of the cross.
Oh. They ever show you that Jesus was a lich meme? Yeah. Powerful necromancer. And though we are 2 who write this book, one of us has very often seen and known such men. And there is a man who was once a scholar and is now believed to be a priest in the diocese of Freising, who used to say that at one time he had been bodily carried through the air by a devil and taken to the most remote parts. I'm sure his most remote parts were taken.
There lives another priest in Oberdorf, a town near Landshut, who was at that time a friend of that one of us who saw with his own eyes such a transportation, and tells how the man was borne on high with arms stretched out, shouting but not whimpering. Sounds like the Flying Nun. And the cause, as he tells it, was as follows. A number of scholars had met together to drink beer, and they all agreed that the one who fetched the beer should not have to pay anything. And so one of them was going to fetch the beer, and on opening the door saw a thick cloud before the Grunzel, and returning in terror told his companions why he would not go for the drink. Then that one of them who was carried away said angrily, "Even if the devil were there, I shall fetch the drink." And going out, he was carried through the air in the sight of all the others. Well, I mean,
I wonder what color.
Get between a German and his beer.
Yeah, I know. That's got to be pretty fucking serious. I'm just wondering, what color was that cloud? It wasn't green, was it? Because I've heard those green clouds can cause people to fly.
You know, oh man, I have this story to tell.
Is it about a tornado?
No.
Oh, okay.
So, I live next door to this guy who he was 6'4", 400 pounds.
Okay.
Big dude.
Yep.
And so he was over at my place with me, my roommate, a couple other friends. The dude was smoking menthols.
Okay.
And we were all high. And he takes a puff and lets out a big old thing of menthol smoke from his cigarette.
Yep.
And we're all like, dude, that cloud was green. And I don't know if it was the weed that gave it the greenish tinge, or if it was actually green, but it was green. You know, I mean, it looked green to us. It may have been because we were stoned, or it may have actually been green. I don't know.
Interesting. Could be lax regulations at the old ATF.
Oh, no.
Or the FDA or whatever.
Yeah.
And indeed, it must be confessed that such things can happen not only to those who are awake, but also to men who are asleep. Namely, they can be bodily transported through the air while they are fast asleep.
Yeah, that's kind of what inspired Stephen King's The Langoliers.
Uh-huh.
He hates to fly, and he has this buddy who was a pilot, is there anything, we could do so I just get on the plane and be knocked down? And his buddy said, well, we could cut off the oxygen, but that would, and you'd all pass out. And, but that wouldn't be really good. This is clear in the case of certain men who walk in their sleep on the roofs of houses and over the highest buildings. Then no one can oppose their progress either on high or below. And if they are called by their own names by other bystanders, they immediately fall crashing to the ground. Sounds like sleepwalkers.
It does sound like sleepwalkers. Many think, and not without reason, that this is the devil's work, for devils are of many different kinds, and some who fell from the lower choir of angels are tortured, as if for smaller sins with lighter punishment, as well as the punishment of damnation which they must suffer eternally. And these cannot hurt anybody, at least not seriously, but for the most part carry out only practical jokes, and others are incubi or succubi who punish men in the night, defiling them in the sin of lechery. It is not wonderful if they are given also to horseplay such as this. Okay.
I want an incubi, buddy. Succubi, I don't remember. I can't remember which one's the hot chick.
I believe succubus would be female, but I'm...
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, I think you're right. I always get those confused, The truth can be deduced from the words of Cassian Colationes 1, where he says that there is no doubt that there are as many different unclean spirits as there are different desires in men. For it is manifest that some of them, which the common people call fawns, and we call trolls, which abound in Norway, are such buffoons and jokers that they haunt certain places and roads, and without being able to do any hurt to those who pass by, are content with mocking and deluding them, and try to weary them rather than hurt them. And some of them only visit men with harmless nightmares, but others are so furious and truculent that they are not content to afflict with an atrocious dilation of the bodies of those whom they inflate, but even come rushing from on high and hasten to strike them with the most savage blows. Our author means that they do not only possess men, but torture them horribly, as did those which are described in St. Matthew 8.
Yeah, okay. I'm not even going to touch that one. From this we can conclude, first, that it must not be said that witches cannot be locally transported because God does not permit it. For if he permits it in the case of the just and innocent and of other magicians, how should he not in the case of those who are totally dedicated to the devil? And we say with all reverence, did not the devil take up our Savior and carry him up to a high place, as the gospel testifies?
Neither can the second argument of our opponents be conceded, that the devil cannot do this thing, for it has already been shown that he has so great natural power, exceeding all corporal power, that there is no earthly power that can be compared with him. As it is said, there is no power on earth that can be compared with him.
Seems a little redundant and repetitive and redundant.
Etc. Indeed, the natural power or virtue which is in Lucifer is so great that there is none greater among the good angels in heaven. For just as he excelled all the angels in his nature and not his nature, but only his grace was diminished by his fall, so that nature still remains in him, although it is darkened and bound. Wherefore the gloss on that, there is no power on earth, says, although he excels all things, yet he's subject to the merits of the saints. So the saints are more powerful than Lucifer, but Lucifer's more powerful than the angels? Something's not adding up.
No, it's fuzzy math at best. Two objections which someone may bring forward are not valid. First, that man's souls could resist him, and that the text seems to speak of one devil in particular, since it speaks in the singular, namely Lucifer. And because it was he who tempted Christ in the wilderness, and seduced the first man, he is now bound in chains, and the other angels are not so powerful, since he excels them all. Therefore, the other spirits cannot transport wicked men through the air from place to place. Okay, sure, whatever.
These arguments have no force, for to consider the angels first, even the least angel is incomparably superior to all human power, as can be proved in many ways. First, a spiritual is stronger than a corporal power, and so is the power of an angel, or even of the soul, greater than that of the body. Secondly, as to the soul, every bodily shape owes its individuality to matter, and in the case of human beings, to the fact that a soul informs it. But immaterial forms are absolute intelligences, and therefore have an absolute and more universal power. For this reason, the soul, when joined to the body, cannot in this way suddenly transfer its body locally or raise it up in the air, although it can easily do so with God's permission if it were separate from its body. Much more, then, is this possible to an entirely immaterial spirit, such as a good or bad angel. Now, fuzz nuts. For a good angel transported Habakkuk in a moment from Judea to Chaldea, and for this reason it is concluded that those who by night are carried in their sleep over high buildings are not carried by their own souls, nor by the influence of the stars, but by some mightier power, as was shown above. And I got a tale about Habakkuk.
Oh, what is this about Habakkuk?
Okay.
Or Habakkuk or whatever.
Well, there's variations of spelling. It's usually spelled with K's instead of C's.
Right.
Now, there is a variation where it has 2 Ks in the middle and 1 K on the end.
Okay.
And there was a guy by the name of Geoffrey Pike in the UK. He was what they call a boffin.
Okay.
He's one of these really smart people. And in World War I, he was convinced the editor at a paper he worked for to send him to Germany to be a wartime correspondent.
All right.
Dude ends up being a POW. He escapes from the camp. And he does it wearing pajamas, a bathrobe, and rubber boots. In the winter. And he manages to make it all the way to France and to a port in France where he can get back to the UK.
All
And
right.
he got a whole list of inventions to his name. And he one of the things that he wanted to do during World War II was build what he called pykrete, which is you take ice and sawdust
Oh, yes.
and make it. And he wanted to build giant aircraft carriers out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And they did a test of a small one. In other words, it was probably no bigger than a rowboat or something like that.
Yep.
In a lake in Canada. And
Yep.
it remained frozen all through the summer. The ship, made out of pykrete, not the lake.
Yep.
And
Yes, I've heard
his
of this.
nephew is the guy who says science in the Thomas Dolby videos.
Okay.
And Geoffrey Pike, after World War II, he had, because the BBC did a great 4-part radio series about him. I think it was 4 parts. It's multi-part anyways, about him, that you have to pirate now to get it. But he, after World War II, he was so frustrated because so many of his ideas that he had, nobody would implement.
Yep.
And so he says, the only way to solve this is to get universal health care, and then the people will be healthy and everything. So he's one of the lead people in the UK responsible for them getting universal health care.
Yep.
And after he did that, he committed suicide.
Oh, for fuck's sakes.
Yeah, and literally, dude, for the rest of his life, all he wore was pajamas, a bathrobe, and rubber boots.
Hey, if it's good enough to escape from a POW camp.
Yeah, he was definitely somewhere on the spectrum. And he had a wife and kid.
Yep.
And he made enough off of the stuff that he was already wealthy to begin with his family inheritance, but he made enough that I guess they lived comfortably after he died. But anyways, all right, back to this shit.
Yeah, well, insanity is hereditary. You do get it from your kids.
Yeah.
Thirdly, it is the nature of the body to be moved as to place directly by a spiritual nature, and, as Aristotle says, Physics 8, local motion is the first of bodily motions, and he proves this by saying that local motion is not intrinsically in the power of any body as such, but is due to some exterior force. Because everybody's doing the local motion.
Yeah. Wherefore it is concluded, not so much from the holy doctors as from the philosophers, that the highest bodies, that is, the stars, are moved by spiritual essences, and by separate intelligences, which are good both by nature and intention. For we see that the soul is the prime and chief cause of local motion in the body. Gotta point out what Lucifer's name means.
Morning star?
Uh-huh.
Or the light bringer?
Yeah, so I'm thinking if you think he's a bad guy, then you can't say that The stars are good.
Well, he's a fallen angel, and, he was the first to rebel and stuff. It must be said, therefore, that neither in its physical capacity nor in that of its soul can the human body resist being suddenly transported from place to place with God's permission, by a spiritual essence good both in intention and by nature, when the good, who are confirmed in grace, are transported, or by an essence good by nature, but not good in intention, when the wicked are transported. Any who wish may refer to St. Thomas in 3 articles in Part 1, Question 90, and again in his questioning concerning sin, and also in the second book of Sentences, Distribution 7, on the power of devils over bodily effects.
Yeah.
The devil made me do it.
Now the following is their method of being transported. They take the unguent, which, as we have said, they make at the devil's instruction from the limbs of children, particularly of those whom they have killed before baptism, and anoint it with a chair or a broomstick, whereupon they are immediately carried up into the air, either by day or by night, and either visibly, or, if they wish, invisibly, for the devil can conceal a body by the interposition of some other substance, as was shown in the first part of the treatise, where we spoke of the glamours and illusions caused by the devil. And although the devil is, for the most part, performs this by means of this unguent to the end that children should be deprived of the grace of baptism and of salvation, yet he often seems to effect the same transvection without its use. So it sounds like it's not really necessary. For at times he transports the witches on animals, which are not true animals, but devils in that form. Yes, we've had this conversation. And sometimes, even without any exterior help, they are visibly carried solely by the operator of the devil's power.
But he can, but he can't, but he can, but he can't, but he does, but he doesn't. Not without God's permission.
Yeah.
Here is an instance of a visible transportation in the daytime. In the town of Waldstadt on the Rhine, in the diocese of Constance, there was a certain witch who was so detested by the townsfolk that she was not invited to the celebration of a wedding, which, however, nearly all the other townsfolk were present. Being indignant because of this, and wishing to be revenged, she summoned a devil, and telling him the cause of her vexation, asked him to raise a hailstorm and drive all the wedding guests from their dancing, and the devil agreed, and raising her up, carried her through the air to a hill near the town, in the sight of some shepherds. And since, as she afterward confessed, she had no water to pour into the trench, for this, as we shall show, is the method they used to raise hailstorms, she made a small trench and filled it with her urine instead of water. Obviously, it's a piss hailstorm. Awesome. And stirred it with their finger, after their custom, with the devil standing by. Then the devil suddenly raised that liquid up and sent a violent storm of hailstones, which fell only on the dancers and townsfolk. And when they had dispersed, they were discussing among themselves the cause of that storm. The witch shortly afterwards entered the town, and this greatly aroused their suspicions. But when the shepherds had told what they had seen, their suspicions became almost a certainty. So she was arrested and confessed that she had done this thing because she had not been invited to the wedding. And for this, and for many other witchcrafts which she had perpetrated, she was burned. Obviously. I mean, what else are you going to do with her?
Okay. Are you familiar with the song Exterminating Angels by the Creatures?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay, the Creatures is Sushi and the Banshees.
Okay.
And one of her band members, and they did this song called Exterminating Angels. And one of the lines in there that really sticks in my head is urine-colored sun.
Uh-huh.
And I have to say that when I got to see the eclipse in 2017, the sky in the area around us was piss yellow at times.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah.
I know shit looked weird during the last eclipse, but that was only a partial eclipse here, so...
Yeah, well, I was basically at the best spot on the planet for totality.
Nice.
Yeah, just sheer luck I happened to live there.
Mm-hmm. Hey, are you in the path of this coming up eclipse?
I get a partial. I don't get the full thing.
Yeah.
And I don't have the money to travel. And it's way too late now
Yep.
to even think about that.
Yep, I'm way the fuck outside of it, so...
Yeah, that sucks, man. Because it is the most amazing thing you'll ever see. It really is. Because it's not like, I mean, you can describe it, but it just doesn't capture it because, people are like, well, the sun's out and then it's dark. And it's like, no, man, there is, you see like weird ripples on the ground as the sun starts, to disappear behind the moon, and then, they reappear after totality. And I mean, it is fucking wild, man, because like, it seems fairly normal right up and, to like just a short period of time before totality hits.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, man, it gets dark and all the birds and the animals and insects, poof, they do what they do when it's nighttime. And then suddenly it gets daylight again and they're all like, what the fuck?
What better way to disturb medieval people?
Yeah. And since the public report of this sort of transfection is continually being spread even among the common people, it is unnecessary to add further proof of it here. But we hope that this will suffice to refute those who either deny altogether that there are such transfections, or try to maintain that they are only imaginary or fantastical. And indeed, it would be a matter of small importance if such men were left in their error, were it not that this error tends to the damage of the faith. For notice that, not content with that error, they do not fear to maintain and publish others also to the increase of witches and the detriment of the faith, for they assert that all the witchcraft which is truly and actually ascribed to witches as instruments of the devil is only so ascribed in imagination and illusion, as if they were really harmless, just as their transfection is only fantastic. And for this reason, many witches remain unpunished, to the great dispraise of the Creator, and to their own most heavy increase.
Yeah, so if I call bullshit for not believing the crazy people who are telling me people can fly, I'm the fucking problem. Right. Okay, got it. Things haven't changed much since this book was written.
No.
The arguments...
Transaction, what a show.
Exactly. The arguments on which they base their fallacy cannot be conceded. For first, they advance the chapter of the canon, Episcopi 26, question 5, where it is said that witches are only transported in imagination, but who is so foolish as to conclude from this that they cannot also be bodily transported? Me? Similarly, at the end of that chapter, it is set down that whoever believes that a man can be changed for the better or the worse, or can be transformed into another shape, is to be thought worse than an infidel or a pagan. But who could conclude from this that men cannot be transformed into beasts by a glamour, or that they cannot be changed from health to sickness and from better to worse? They who so scratch at the surface of the words of the canon hold an opinion that is contrary to that of all the holy doctors, and indeed against the teaching of the Holy Scripture. Alright, so I'm a heretic. Sweet.
I know you're shocked to learn that one.
Yeah.
For the contrary opinion is abundantly proved by what has been written in various places in the first part of this treatise, and it is necessary to study the inner meaning of the words of the canon. And this was examined in the first question of the first part of the treatise. Boy, that reminds me so much of...
Within and without and without and within, yeah. Maccabees.
No. The end of Plan 9 from Outer Space. Where, these events will take place in the future, and this is the future. This is important to all of us because the future is where we'll be spending the rest of our lives, or something along those lines, And this was examined in the first question of the first part of the treatise, in refuting the second of the three errors which there are condemned, and where it is said that four things are to be preached to the people, for they are transported both bodily and fantastically, as is proved by their own confessions, not only of those who have been burned, but also of others who have returned to penitence and the faith, and then were burned.
Because that's how they roll, yes.
Yeah.
Among such there was the woman in the town of Braisac, whom we asked whether they could be transported only in imagination or actually in the body, and she answered that it was possible in both ways. For if they do not wish to be bodily transferred, but want to know all that is being done in a meeting of their companions, then they observe the following procedure. In the name of all the devils, they lie down to sleep on their left side. And then a sort of bluish vapor comes from their mouth, through which they can clearly see what is happening. But if they wish to be bodily transported, they must observe the method which has been told.
Besides, even if that canon be understood in its bare meaning, without any explanation, who is so dense as to maintain on that account that all their witchcraft and injuries are fantastic and imaginary, when the contrary is evident to the senses of everybody, especially since there are many species of superstition, namely 14, among which the species of witches holds the highest degree in spells and injuries, and the species of pythonists, to which they can be reduced, which is only be able to be transported in imagination, holds the lowest degree. Oh boy, and have you seen that really shitty movie called The Lair of the White Worm?
No, thankfully.
It's one of those, it's so shitty, it's funny.
Oh, okay. And we do not concede that their error can be substantiated by the legends of Saint Germain and certain others, for it was possible for the devils to lie down themselves by the side of the sleeping husbands during the time when a watch was being kept on the wives, just as if they were sleeping with their husbands. And we do not say that this was done for any reverence felt for the saint, but the case is put the opposite of what is set down in the legend may not be believed to be impossible. I gotta call bullshit, but whatever.
In the same way, all other objections can be answered, that it is found that some witches are transported only in imagination, but that it is also found in the writings of the doctors. Ooh, I may want to drop in a good sample from Doctor Who there. That many have been bodily transported. Whoever wishes may refer to Thomas of Brabant and his book about bees, and he will find many wonderful things concerning both the imaginary and the bodily transvection of men. And transvection is just a fancy way of saying fly.
Yep.
Or levitating.
As near as can be told, because I can't find a definition for it anywhere.
Well, I Googled it, and that's what it came up.
Alright, I tried Googling it last time, and I got nowhere. But whatever. Actually, I did get somewhere. It told me to look in this book. In Hexenhammer, yes. Alright. Part 2, Question 1, Chapter 4. Here follows the way whereby witches copulate with those devils known as incubi. Oh, I should fire up my wah. As to the method in which witches copulate with the incubus devils, 6 points are to be noted. First, as to the devil in the body which he assumes, of what element it is formed. Second, as to the act, whether it is always accompanied with the injection of semen received from some other man. Third,
Snowball!
Yep. Third, as to the time and place, whether one time is more favorable than another for this practice. Fourth, whether the act is visible to the women, and whether only those who were begotten in this way are so visited by devils. Fifth, what it applies only to those who are offered to the devil at birth by midwives. Sixth, whether the actual venereal pleasure is greater or less in this act. And we will speak first of the matter and quality of the body which the devil assumes.
Oh,
I know, right? Brown chicken, brown cow.
I think it's time for the Barry White voice to come out.
Uh-huh.
It must be said that he assumes an aerial body, and that it is in some respects terrestrial, insofar as it has an earthly property through condensation. And this is explained as follows. The air cannot of itself take definite shape, except the shape of some other body in which it is included. And in that case, it is not bound by its own limits, but by those of something else. And one part of the air continues into the next part. Therefore, he cannot simply assume an aerial body as such.
Obviously. Okay, I'm not going to try the voice because I can't pull it off. And it'll make me cough like crazy. Know, moreover, that the air is in every way a most changeable and fluid matter, and a sign of this is the fact that when any have tried to cut or pierce with a sword the body assumed by a devil, they have not been able to, for the divided parts of the air at once join together again. From this it follows that air is in itself a very competent matter, but because it cannot take shape, unless some other terrestrial matter is joined with it, therefore it is necessary that the air which forms the devil's assumed body should be in some way Whoa. That's got to be a typo. Inspissated. I've never heard this word before. Inspissated. Oh, come on. Just let me highlight that. And
broadly made or having become thick, heavier or intense.
Oh, so a little girthy. Okay. And
did you guys ever get those Slim Jim commercials where the guy would have like the bunch of Slim Jims in his mouth and he'd be going, beefy?
Possibly.
It's like, y'all don't no.
I haven't watched a hell of a lot of TV since Where's the Beef, so.
Yeah, it's just 90s. It's like, no, what do you guys think? That's not going to sell.
Yeah. Okay. Bloody hell, this is such a run-on sentence, I can't even go back a ways. Therefore, it is necessary that the air which forms the devil's assumed body should be in some way inspissated and approach the property of the earth while still retaining its true property as air. And devils and disembodied spirits can effect this condensation by means of gross vapors raised from the earth, and by collecting them together into shapes in which they abide, not as defilers of them, but only as their motive power, which gives to the body the formal appearance of life, in very much the same way as the soul informs the body to which it is joined. They are, moreover, in these assumed and shaped bodies, like a sailor in a ship which the wind moves. So, haunted bone mech covered in a plate of meat armor?
So, when it is asked of what sort is the body assumed by the devil, it is to be said that with regard to its material, it is one thing to speak of the beginning of its assumption, and another thing to speak of its end. For in the beginning it is just air, but in the end it is inspated air, partaking some of the properties of the earth. So it's a tornado. And all this the devils, with God's permission, can do of their own nature, for the spiritual nature is superior to the bodily. Therefore the bodily nature must obey the devils in respect of local motion, though not in respect of the assumption of natural shapes, either accidental or substantial, except in the case of some small creatures. When real small furry creatures from Alpha Centauri were real small furry creatures from Alpha Centauri. And then only with the help of some other agent, as has been hinted before. But as to local motion, no shape is beyond their power. Thus they can move them as they wish, in such circumstances as they will.
Okay, that's not where my head went, and when you were talking about, small creatures, but...
Several small furry creatures in a cave grooving with a pick?
No, sadly.
Richard Gere?
No. So... Oh, of course it does.
Well, Billy was a boy who had a...
Of course, what does?
Okay. Save this one for later.
I'm almost afraid.
No. Okay, so Dayglow abortions are a punk act that started around 1979, I think.
Richard Gere.
And they ran until about 2016. They had a pretty good run. It's fucking brilliant. Great band. Punk, thrash, kind of crossover kind of thing. Anyway, this was one of their better albums and probably the least politically correct song on the album.
So I'm guessing you're not getting my Richard Gere references.
Unless he had Habitrail tombs in his home and hamsters, then yeah.
Gerbil stuffing.
Yeah, okay, yeah, same stuff.
Yeah. You know, because hamsters have a short tail, so it's harder to get them out.
Oh, okay.
And somebody has done one of those, they've got one of those AI things to generate images of Richard Gere shopping for gerbils.
Oh, Jesus. Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to need to remember to edit some of this stuff out.
Yep.
Because,
clean edit point.
from this, there may arise an incidental question as to what should be thought when a good or bad angel performs some of the functions of life by means of true natural bodies, and not in aerial bodies. Oh my God. As in the case of Balaam's ass. Through which the angel spoke.
So wait, I gotta stop here, because were they talking out of his ass? Or were they talking out of the donkey? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a cheap joke in there somewhere.
Through which the angel spoke, and when the devils take possession of bodies, it is to be said that those bodies are not called assumed, but occupied.
Mm-hmm.
See St. Thomas 2:8. Whether angels assume bodies, but let us keep strictly to our argument.
In what way is it to be understood that devils talk with witches, see them, hear them, eat with them, and copulate with them? And this is the second part of the first difficulty. For the first, it is to be said that three things are required for true conversation, namely lungs to draw in the air, and this is not only for the sake of producing sound, but also to cool the heart. And even mutes have this necessary quality. Wait a minute. I'm pretty sure I don't breathe into my lungs to cool my heart. But whatever. What do I know?
Yeah, well, dude, Galen was still the dominant physician at this time. You know, his ideas, I mean, he was a Roman physician to gladiators. You do not want to know some of the shit that he did as in experiments. Like, he removed the squeal from a pig.
Okay. Did he find it in the blood?
And he cut out its vocal cords.
Oh, okay.
I have read the account, and
you sure got a pretty mouth.
Oh, dude. No. That is preferable.
No, okay.
That is I mean, it is. I mean, you know, I like me some bacon. I like me some pork.
Mm-hmm.
But goddamn, that is some severe animal cruelty.
Yep.
The way he did it. For when a substance that is susceptible to sound is struck by a sound-producing instrument, it gives out a sound according to its size, which is received in the air and multiplied to the ears of the hearer, to whom, if he is far off, it seems to come through space. Well, yeah, that's kind of how it works.
Yeah, kinda. Thirdly, a voice is required, and it may be said that what is called sound in inanimate bodies is called voice in living bodies. And here the tongue strikes the respirations of air against an instrument or living natural organ provided by God. And this is not a bell, which is called a sound, whereas this is a voice. And this third requisite may clearly be exemplified by the second, and I have set this down that preachers may have a method of teaching the people. It's not quite how it works, but...
Yeah. I say we put a fork in it.
You put a fork in it and fourthly?
Yeah.
Excellent. I'm totally cool with that.
Yeah.
That's it for this episode of the Atheist in the Trailer Park podcast. You can subscribe to the show on iTunes. It's also on Stitcher, and most of the episodes are on YouTube. Follow the show on Twitter at TParkAtheist, and it's on Facebook at facebook.com/trailerparkatheist. You can email me at trailerparkatheist@gmail.com. Show notes can be found at tparkatheist.blogspot.com. If you happen to like the podcast, please rate it on iTunes. If you'd like to donate to support the podcast, there's a donate button on the show notes page. You can also support the show on Patreon at patreon.com/TNTucker.
The podcast, there's a donate button on the show notes page. You can support it via Patreon at patreon.com/TNTucker. Thanks for listening.
Say goodnight, Fuzz-Nuts.
All I know is this violates every canon of respectable broadcasting.
damned cat.